Hi, my name is Sarah. I'm 20 years old, and I'm going to tell you guys how I got into high ticket sales. So it's kind of a long story. If we go back 20 years, I was born in Toronto. Shortly after, I moved to Indiana, I moved to California. Then I moved to this town called Ithaca, New York. I lived there since I was 2. I'm in Costa Rica right now. So essentially, parents were not together. Pretty typical for these coming generations, and it was rough. But my story really started when I was 13. So my mom was struggling with a lot of mental health issues, and I went away to Indiana to visit my family for 2 weeks. And on the day that she was supposed to pick me up, which happened to be Mother's Day, the cops came to the door instead, and they told us that she had committed suicide. It was 10 days before my 14th birthday. And I can talk about it now without crying because unfortunately I've had to tell the story many times, but it really broke me. And I had to move in with my father, who is extremely emotionally abusive and did not care about my feelings. Countless times did he tell me that it was my fault that happened, and I was just a child. You can't put that onto a child. So about 3 months after my mom passed away, I was, doing drugs. I was kind of involved in some degenerate activities. And then my dad sent me away. He sent me to this place called Blue Ridge Therapeutic Wilderness in Georgia. Clayton, Georgia. And I was there for 73 days and I wanted to die. It was horrible. Basically, you're with this other group of girls who, all have problems, right? Maybe their parents just don't want them around. Some of them genuinely did have problems, though, I will say. And you can't know what time it is. You can only write letters to your family once a week. You only get therapy once a week. And you can't know how long you have to hike. And so what I mean by that is that every 1 to 2 days, we would have to go to a different campsite because of LNT, leave no trace. Like you can't be at one place for too long. So we went to sleep not knowing the next day if we had to hike or not. They would literally wake us up by saying, "Good morning, G7, whatever the group name was called. Today is a pack up day." And that meant that we had to pack up all of our stuff. Our stuff being literally a tarp, not a tent, a tarp that we had to set up at every new place that we went to, and a little yoga mat and a sleeping bag. So we were essentially just sleeping on the ground. So that was fun. So I was there for a while. Another thing that they did was that if you spoke to somebody in the group, like one of the other girls, and the staff could not hear you, they would put you on this thing called silence. And silence would be for 10 minutes. And if you spoke out of silence, you would be put on silence for another 10 minutes. I wish that I was lying, but that is genuinely what happened in my life. And then I went back home because I begged to go back home. While I was there, though, my father told me that him and his new wife were pregnant. And so I was literally going home to a newborn baby. That was a great little change in my life. But yeah, so I went back home. I went home for exactly 1 year. My dad made me in my room all the time. He wouldn't even let me go to school. He made me do online school. I wasn't allowed to have a phone. Of course, as a 14, 15-year-old, yeah, I'm going to get a phone and I'm going to sneak it around because what? I was completely isolated though. I was barely even allowed to talk to my mother's side of the family. I was like Rapunzel locked up in a tower. Like there was nothing that I could do. And he would always accuse me of like smoking weed. Like if there was a skunk outside, "Oh my gosh, Sarah, I know you're smoking weed upstairs." No, I'm not, like genuinely. But it was really hard for me to be in a household with somebody who's emotionally abusive and narcissistic right after my mom passed away, because what I really needed was somebody who cared about me and loved and supported me. So after that 1 year exactly of me being home, I kind of ran away from my house for a couple of weeks. And then I went back to my house to go and pick up some of my clothes because I was wearing the same clothes for like 2 weeks. I was 15 at the time. Basically, I go back into my house to get some of my clothes. He corners my friend. He doesn't let her come upstairs with me. And I think nothing of it. I'm just like, oh, he's mad at me. He doesn't want me to bring my friend in the house. Okay, whatever. So I go upstairs. I get out my bag. I'm about to start packing it. And then these 2 people, they come and they take me. I literally was like screaming at them. I was like, "No, you can't take me. Like there's a CPS order open or whatever." And then they're like, "No, we have like authority to take you." And they showed me this thing, this document. And then I was like, okay, whatever. Like I was kicking them. I was like, no, there's no way that this is happening to me again. So yeah, right back to wilderness I went for 83 days this time. But this time, my dad was so mad at me. He wouldn't even write me letters and he wouldn't tell me where I was going next. So I didn't know if I was going home. I didn't know if I was going to another treatment center because a lot of girls went from wilderness to another treatment center. But I just hoped and I prayed that everything would be okay. But that time at wilderness was even more of a traumatic experience, and I'm not going to get into that right now, maybe a story for another day. But I genuinely thought my life was over. And there was a time where I didn't even want to do it anymore. But I realized that it was about more than just me. It was about my friends, and it was about my little sister, who is now 14 years old, and that I just had to keep going because I couldn't leave them like my mom left me. So basically, after those 83 days in wilderness or 82 days, whatever, I went to this place, Cedar City, Utah, called Discovery Ranch for Girls. There was a lot of extremely deranged girls there, I will say. I'm a very emotionally regulated person, and so being around those people was like, this is not beneficial to me. This is actually detrimental to me, because why are you gonna put me around like all these girls who like genuinely need help when I just need somebody who's gonna love and care about me? But I did get an amazing therapist there, I will say. She was like the clinical therapist, and nobody else had her because like my life has been crazy. Got a lot of good work done there, made some really great friends, some of which I'm still friends with today. I was there for 7.5 months. A lot of the girls were there for 1 to 2 years. It was like a phase system. There was 5 phases. With every phase, you got a little bit more flexibility to have freedom. Like once you get to phase 5, you get to go to this thing called the clubhouse whenever you want, where there's like a TV, you can have your own snacks, you can even sometimes like use the computer to be able to use Instagram and stuff like that. Watch whatever you want, like literally whatever you want on the TV. So once I finished school there, I was at the clubhouse like all of the time because they had like an online school thing, whatever. So I finished school and then I was literally spending my entire day in the clubhouse because I did not want to be around those people. So I graduated from that place, and then I had 1 more year left of school. Mind you, I was only 16 at the time, but it was very important to me to work extremely hard to be able to prove to myself that regardless of me jumping from school to school to school to school, that I could still graduate early, because graduating early was the only way that I could get away from my father and that ongoing abuse that I was facing. After that place, I went home for 3 days, and then I went to this boarding school in Tilton, New Hampshire called Tilton Prep, and it was also really crappy. Like, if I'm being completely honest, there was a lot of very, very stuck up and rich kids there, because obviously like it's a prep school. There's a lot of rich kids there. But I was there and I was only getting $100 a month from my dad. The food was horrible, and $100 a month is not even enough to like buy my makeup and my face wash and all the stuff that I needed. I genuinely felt like the black sheep. I was in my room all the time. I was hitting my babe, I was smoking my car, I was in my room all the time. Not only that, legitimately, I accidentally slept through my alarm and I missed like 2 classes, and they told me that if I missed 1 more class, they would not allow me to graduate. Even though their requirements for graduating in New Hampshire required me to take like 3 more classes and like credits than I would have needed to graduate in New York. So my father made it almost impossible for me to graduate early, but I did it anyways, because no matter what happens, no matter what obstacles are thrown at you, if you are genuinely determined to do something, you will do it, no matter what. After I graduated high school, I was, traveling for a little bit of time, like Florida, Georgia, Alabama. And then I was actually going to enlist in the Air Force because there was somebody that I was very, very close with that was in the military, and she thought that I would excel at that. But then I went home for a little bit of time and I was like, oh, I really miss my friends. I want to stay a little bit longer. And then my dog got cancer, and I've had that dog since before my mom died, and she's a part of my family. So I had to stay. She got surgery. She's okay now. She's still alive. She literally has so much energy. She doesn't even act like she's ever gotten cancer. After that, I got a job working for Windsor Group LLC. They were subcontracted to disperse the Discrimination Financial Assistance Program for the USDA. So I was 17 years old and I was working a job that was paying me $30 an hour, which is pretty good. I mean, for a 17-year-old, right? I was working there for a couple months because it was a temporary contracted position. After that, I got my own place at 17. That was my first place ever. And then I got pregnant. and I didn't have a lot of money. So I saved up all my money. I got my first car because obviously I needed that to be able to commute places and to make more money. Then I moved right before I was about to have my daughter. And I had my daughter. She was born on September 20th, 2024. And she's almost 2 years old now. And she is extremely smart. Bit of a rough go round. And I knew that I had to do something more for her and for myself because I was not okay with working a 9 to 5, being up at 9 in the morning, getting to work, not being home until like 5 or 6 p.m., not having energy for myself, not having energy to cook dinner or take care of myself or to take care of her. I knew that that was not the path that I wanted to take because you have to be above average if you want to get anywhere in life. You can't do the same thing as everybody else or else you're going to be the same as everybody else. So one day I was just kind of scrolling, kind of funny how I actually got into this. I was scrolling and I saw that my ex-boyfriend from middle school had 300,000 followers on TikTok. And so I called my friend, my best friend, and I was like, bro, did you know that X, Y, and Z has 300,000 followers on TikTok? And she's like, no, I didn't know that. I knew that his friend had like 500, but I didn't even know that he was relevant. And so it's like, there's no way. Like, I'm a single mom. I have to pay all these bills, and he's just making skits and making money off of that. So what can I do to make money? And she was like, oh, you know what, Sarah, you should talk to this person. Again, not here to name drop, that I used to go to high school with, that I used to be close friends with. And so I ended up, speaking to him, having a conversation. It turned out that he was in high ticket sales. So I paid him to teach me about high ticket sales, but it's kind of like the worst and best decision that I've ever made because in that Discord, there was literally like 3 documents. There was only like job boards that were posted from Instagram or like whatever in there. He had screenshots of like people's Instagram. For example, I remember seeing James McCauley. I remember seeing Bruno. I remember seeing like a bunch of people like DM this person, DM this person, DM this person. And I had no idea like what I was doing. I was outreaching to all these people who didn't care or who were trying to sell me something else. And so I was kind of just stuck. Like I had no guidance. I had no path. I had no offer to be placed on, even though that was the case. And then I got into this with a really crappy mentor in a really crappy way. I'm still thankful because had I not reached out to him, I wouldn't even know about this in the first place. So it's kind of like a thank you, but like fuck you at the same time. But essentially I did start, connecting with a lot of people in space, finally got into a couple good offers, and then, it was really just up from there. And then I know that most of you guys have probably seen my Dawn Day viral video. One day I was just applying for, a closer role, right? Because a lot of people, their advertisement is just like cooked. Advertising, oh, I'm hiring closers, I'm hiring setters, like whatever. And then you opt in and then you get onto an interview and then they're actually pitching you their core so that they can place you onto another offer. That's exactly what happened. I got onto that interview and I was like, oh, let me just interview for this, right? But then like he pitched me $5,000 and I was like, bro, I'm not here for training. I'm here for an offer. That really kind of made me a little bit relevant, I will say, because nobody really knew who I was before I posted that. And then I got engagement from a lot of people. And so again, it's like, thank you, but fuck you, because that was absolutely ridiculous. And unfortunately, I believe that it happens way too much to women in the space and just in general. It's just the unfortunate truth of the world that we live in. I started working with some really, really amazing people and started hitting, my goal numbers. And I now sales managing for a company that's doing, $250,000 a month. And pretty much that's how I got into high ticket sales. So basically that's my story on how I got into high ticket sales. It was kind of like a very crazy story. But at the end of the day, if you know that you're meant for doing something more, do not stoop yourself just to the average. Because if you believe you're meant for something more, you wouldn't have that in your mind for no reason. Everything happens for a reason and everything works out the way that it is supposed to. Those are my mottos.